Thank you so much for joining us on a day.
Like that? That works.
Join us for the opening and for the talk. It's a great pleasure to have Céleste Boursier-Mougenot's exhibition of sound and video here at the museum. And also, great honor and pleasure to have Céleste himself. Been here 10 days as really an artist in residence in our museum day and night, working with our great team. Really incredible gratitude I need to extend to Céleste for thinking of the exhibition space as an extension of his studio, really thinking truly outside the box and working with the architecture, working with some constrictions, but creating a mesmerizing work. And teaming up with two wonderful people who I really must acknowledge, as always, Craig Alban, our installation manager, who always rises to the occasion day and night to work with our visiting artist, and Chad Seelig, who has returned. He got his MFA from UMass just this past spring, worked at our museum for about a year, has gone on to greener pastures, but we brought him back to work with Céleste. I mean, he volunteered to come back to work with Céleste. It was that important for him. And he's now a freelance Renaissance man, so anyone in the gallery museum profession, he is available, sad to say for us. So this is the first for the University Museum to merge sound and image in one space without the usual, separate rooms, black curtains, soundproofing. This was Celeste's idea from day one to integrate the sound, music, and the visual. It's a first for Céleste also to merge his work in one space. Up to now, it's my understanding that the work, whenever he's had a gallery museum show, it was one installation in one space. So this provided an opportunity for him to think about the merging of the music and the sound, and also creating two new works for the exhibition. A third work is possibly going to be in the exhibition as well. But anyway, we do have, at the moment, some exciting new work that Céleste created especially for our show. And Céleste has been very busy over the last few months, half a year or more. He has created a new work that's on view at the moment, if any of you are in New York. Before November 10th, the French Institute, the Alliance Française, has a new work of Céleste called Portraits, a sound video installation. I haven't seen it yet, but report has it that it's really an important work. Also a new work, and several new works at his Paris gallery. So Céleste has been really very busy in creating some exciting works, and we're privileged to be part of his creativity. I want to mention tomorrow's screening. I hope you can all come back. It will not be at Byzantium, it will be here at the gallery. A film that Céleste had as a document of his work from here to ear, of his zebra finches and electric guitars. We'll screen it here in the downstairs at 6 o'clock, and then 3 speakers will be in conversation with Céleste from the biology department, from psychology, and the music department. So I think you can join us for tomorrow. We also plan to do a catalog, so stay tuned. This will be a very beautiful publication, which will be, actually, the substance will be an interview that was conducted this summer between Christoph Cox and Céleste. So it's really an in-depth, totally brilliant conversation that was a back and forth over the summer. So that will be published hopefully by the end of the month, with some beautiful photographs of the work in situ here and other new works of Céleste. I really want to also acknowledge one other person here, Anthony Allen, who has come up from the Paula Cooper Gallery, director of the gallery. From day one, Anthony has been a remarkable go-between and coordinator of this project. So, Anthony, thank you for coming this evening, and thank you from day one. This is not the end of our work with Paula Cooper Gallery and you, so thank you. So, Céleste's bio is downstairs. It would just take me an hour to read off all the things he's done in the last 25 years, museum and gallery shows, solo group around the world, with the awards, nominations for the Marcel Duchamp Prize, having been in exhibitions on the John Cage effect. So, of course, Duchamp, Cage have been important figures that have influenced him, and also exhibitions that have brought him to the fore with that theme. So please check out the bio downstairs, but now I will focus on the bios of two other speakers here. So thrilled to have in conversation with Celeste Christoph Cox, who is professor of philosophy at Hampshire College, a member of the faculty at the Center for Curatorial Studies at Bard College. Christoph is the author of Nietzsche, Naturalism and Interpretation, and co-editor of Audio Culture, Readings in Modern Music. The recipient of a 2009 Arts Writers Grant from Creative Capital and the Warhol Foundation, Christoph writes on contemporary art and music for Art Forum, The Wire, and other magazines, and is editor-at-large at Cabinet Magazine. He's curated exhibitions at the Kitchen in New York, the Contemporary Art Museum in Houston, the New Langton Arts in San Francisco, and other centers. He's currently completed a philosophical book on sound, art, and experimental music. He was also curator last year in Greenfield of the Brick and Mortar Video Festival. So both in our community and elsewhere.
Yeah, very beginning. Yep.
Joshua Selman, who received a degree from the Yale School of Music, is an intermediate artist who practices public space intervention, large-scale installation, critical journalism, and applied new media. He's worked extensively with Fluxus founders Alison Knowles and Dick Higgins. Josh is the publisher of New Observations magazine, which was founded by artist Lucio Pozzi in the 1980s, and is president of Arts Organized Art, which is also a strategic partner to Switch, a Holyoke-based intermedia for television nationally syndicated series for access television and streaming on the World Wide Web. Among his engagements, he's performed as an invited artist at Performa 2011 and was recently commissioned to perform on the High Line on Earth Day just this past year. So welcome and thank you so much. I'll turn it over. No moderator, we're just going to throw it open.
That's good.
Thank you so much.
I'd just like to, I'm Josh. I'd like to thank Loretta for arranging for me to take part in this panel. I've been following Celeste's work since he debuted at Paula Cooper years ago and have always been extremely interested in his work. It's a real privilege to be able to meet him and to participate in such a panel. A couple of points of precision. I'm not the publisher of New Observations magazine. It's Erica Nur, who's sitting right there. And I'm not the producer of Switch. The creative director is Jessica Higgins, who's sitting here. So, so I can leave. I need to be able to leave in one piece. Celeste, I'm very gratified to see you. I heard many accounts of how much work you were doing here, and I purposely stayed away so as not to interrupt your energy. I look forward to seeing this work after the panel, and I will be returning several times to look at this. In the meantime, I wanted to ask you a bit about parameterized thought and how parametric thought and the intermodulating of parameters has led from what we've seen used in, for example, musical contexts where very basic parameters of art like sound, timbre, pitch, dynamics, etc. Their information is transposed. What I find really striking in where you've gone with what you're doing is that you've not only worked with intermedia, which I think we're all pretty familiar with the intermedia concept now, but you've overlaid on top of intermedia an intermodulation of parameters, which is extremely unusual.
Hello. So, first of all, I want to say that I want to thank everybody, the team of the UMCA, before to start the conversation. Everything was very exciting for me for this show, and I want to thank everybody who make it happen. Yes, you were talking about intermedia. I don't know what it is. I'm sorry. So What's the difference between the other and what
Okay,
you say?
so, well, I'm referring to work where someone who starts out as a, quote, composer suddenly finds themselves in a situation where they're maybe a sculptor, or maybe they're an action artist, or something in between all of these things. They're working with media from a point in between different categories. So essentially, we're free to work as artists in a decategorized way. So that would just be the normal intermedia mindset. But then what I was noticing is unusual about your work is that the different forms of information that flow from different media that you're standing between are used to modulate each other. So it is an overlay of a kind of modulating of information from different parameters into intermedia play.
Yes, I don't know what to say. I'm sorry, but it happens by itself. So I remember when I was at the conservatory, a very young kid, I used to start studying drums, and I had to learn solfège, but for me music was something which can be totally spontaneous. I think a bird going on the wire makes sound, and there is sound when you read a text, I mean, because of the name of the notes, the notation, A, B, C, D, F, G, and in different systems, alphabetical or syllabicals, can become, it's a kind of paranoiac approach of the things which make you look at the text and its time.
I mean, essentially the question is very theoretical, but the where you're coming from when you make these works is very personal. So we want to know more about what you have to say about it.
I can retrospectively say that when you are very limited, you need to create your own tools, your approach. You need, even if you want to copy something, at the end it doesn't look like what you try to copy. So, and it takes long time to feel that finally it's not so bad. It took a long time for me. For many years I was never satisfied about what I was doing. I stay very concrete, there is no theory, so I just want to try to make the things that I have no explanation. In fact, I just try to follow my
talk
work.
about good and bad art, right? Like you would say, oh, this piece didn't come out well, and this one came out. This I like.
The thing is, you need to I mean, it's about listening. Listening was my discover in sense of, now I have to make office work because many people contact me to do this, to do that, and I spend a lot of time on my computer, but for many years I had time I was not so successful, and to work for several months or years on a piece. And I think what the experience, maybe Craig and Chad, who did help me to do the show and helped me a lot, can tell you that I let turn the sound and I correct progressively, and it's yes. I cannot say please to somebody to order to people who help me. But you will do this, you will do that. I have to do it myself, and in this sense, finally, I'm a very traditional artist doing it's like artisanal.
So are these commissions?
Sorry?
Are they commissioned works that you're working on? I mean, one of the pressures that a very artisanal practitioner would be facing is there's a commission from a patron. There would be a a deadline for delivery and exposure, etc.
I mean, a show is a commission by itself. When somebody show you the space, you have to fill the contract. I mean, to sign it, but you have to fill the space, which is a contract.
I wanted to go back to Josh's first question and to talk about different kinds of, we spoke about, Celeste and I had an elaborate conversation about the notion of translation, or I know you prefer other terms, right? Because a translation would seem to mean you ideally want to translate something into some other thing that you could read back to the original, right? And I know that you talked about your disinclination to that. For that, I wanted to follow that up a little bit. When we spoke, we talked about the fact that any kind of musical piece is a translation in some sense, that is the classical musical piece, insofar as you're translating a set of visual symbols into a set of, into sort of sonic actions. You tend to go in the reverse. I mean, I guess it goes both ways, but you tend to go from the sonic to the visual. And I wanted to ask you, in this regard, what sorts of translations interest you? I think this is something that Josh was getting at as well. Why render sound in this particular way rather than that kind of way? Why did the particular visual forms that you tend to, or that you take up, why do they interest you?
I mean, the model of the visual form as a sculpture, for example, is that you can turn around.
Yeah.
You can leave, you can come back.
Yeah.
So it's open, so it's a meditative object by itself. You can really decide. It's not like when you are, I mean, with music, even if there is no end and no beginning and no end, you will have to stay for a while. So what I did try first was to transpose my practice as a musician, because my music had no end and no beginning. So I needed to find a place to put this music and not to have the very strict constraint of to be in the concert hall. And finally it was very fortunate that I had this possibility, because then I can really decide for open space and time.
Yeah.
This was the first maybe step of the translation.
Right. The one of the things,
or transposition.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sometimes I think it seems to matter to you that your audience knows the source of the image. So, for example, in the Flame by Frame, that piece, it's important, right, to know that the movement of that flame is generated by sound in some way, right? And
yes.
And I was going to say, in some cases, in other cases, you're not, or in the index piece, you give us a clear indication of what the source of that sound is. It's these, sort of stock figures. But in other times, you're not concerned. You're left. I mean, right? You're happy to have it go away. Yeah.
I mean, after this question of the freedom you can give to yourself, it's just, for me, it's a stock option of feeding.
Yeah.
But I mean, feeding the animal, which is a piano. I mean, and I can adapt for many situations. It's just a question of time. I will spend on this or this. Here I decided to make something, since I have to tune different pieces together. I don't want to have a piece which is totally too much solid. I need to have it, and I think what is important, I'm not going to follow what is going on. I try to feed. What can I do with all this shit?
Yeah.
And how can and for the TV piece, it's the same thing, zombie drones. So it's feed by the TV channel, and what can I do? How can I? But each time it came from my own history. Maybe one day I was so frustrated. I say, okay, I used to spend 1 year watching TV because when I was a kid I had no TV at home. So when I was 20, in my first apartment, I had a TV, and unless to work, I spent a lot of time watching. One day I throw it away after 1 year, and I thought since this time, one day I will do something which change the relationship. I mean les rapports, the relationship with the TV, which makes it totally fascinating. Yeah. In sense of by crypting, you like if you listen to the radio, you can imagine the face of people talking.
Yes.
Image what they are describing. Oh.
So in all these cases, it's a matter of turning, in your words, sort of shit into art or shit into music of some sort. But I mean, I'm not being facetious here. There are different kinds of shit, right? So this problem is very important. What I mean to say is, so this index piece, the piano piece downstairs, has been fed by various kinds of stuff, right? In one case, in an earlier case, it was fed by data from the sort of office workers around the exhibition. In other cases, it's been fed by what? Well, in this case, sort of stock materials. So all of and the zombie drones, this idea that TV is just pumping out all this sort of crap, and you somehow feel.
I don't want to change the world. I just want to change the adjustment.
You just want to turn.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I mean, I have no. But everything will start when you are talking. I have an idea. No, I don't remember.
That's okay.
Sorry.
We'll come back to it.
I can't help asking, after having gone through a number of the works, not only having seen some but also reading about them, they have a strikingly elegant quality. It's a pretty basic kind of question, but do you go after that?
Yes, because you have to erase all the things which are visual noise. You have to go to the essential. I mean, if there is a technical device, you show it, but there is a way you have to take the kernel and put it in the space, in my opinion. And this is very important. Also, what I wanted to add before was, everything is very physical for me. It's not like, it's like, I mean, the result of experience, which is sometimes sad, something I thought a long time ago, and it takes maybe 20 years to come. For the piano piece, what can I do with the piano? I can play. This will be more or less something which remind you some very famous musician. It's very difficult to create innovative work or to configuration what I'm doing. And that it can sound different. Maybe one day you just assist at one phase of the process. Yeah. One day maybe I will say I stop this piece because now it's fine for me. It's like I did, but in the world where we are living, you are supposed to do one thing one time, and it's a kind of consumerism. And if you keep you in mind that you want to go and don't say satisfied because it's amazing, everything is fine, and you can be satisfied by this, but you need to not to forget that you have your own idea on the things. And I mean, it's easy to restart new work all the time, but I think one of the particularity of my approach is like to follow principle and to say that it's a work in progress in general. My life is a work in progress.
With different versions, perhaps,
Yes.
yeah.
So
Or different
for me,
iterations.
since there is a real time, it's always something like it's unique at each instant. Then the question of is doing the same thing is never the same thing. And also repeating, doing one more time, one thing is always not the same thing. And always my feeling is that is this going to work or not? I'm never totally sure that it will work. And sometimes when I say it depends of what, I have no rational, I'm very rational in terms of to connect devices together, but not for that. So there is a kind of a doubt. Does it? I had a lot of experience like that with the pools. Maybe it was a dream, or I don't know.
This is a piece in which various kinds of crockery are floating in pools of water, and their sort of random contact with one another generates sound. Very simple and elegant sound piece. Yeah, not just sound piece, visual piece as well.
There is actually the question of experimentalism, which comes to mind after realizing, I mean, you have a very pragmatic approach to your work. It's a kind of, no bullshit. It has to come out, at a certain level. But at the same time, as you said, you're not sure how it's going to come out. And so, a lot of the advances that we've had in the sphere of artistic thinking and artistic acceptance have really had root in the school of experimental art, in which we put together things where the elements are determined ahead of time, but how they play together is unknown, and the result is somewhat accepted. And I'm wondering where you stand on that.
Oh yes, for each new experience or show, for me it's become interesting if I take the risk to go in the edge of the what I know, and it's never done before. And in same time, I'm coming from the Europe, so which I mean theory it's coming before practice, and I was totally in the opposite way. I'm doing things, and this makes me thinking. I think I have no idea a priori, and some ideas, sure, but I really like to. I don't know. I did the best I can for this show, but maybe I will have more to say later. It's like
you will.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you one thing that we didn't get to take up in the printed interview, but which you've mentioned once just now, and then also when we were downstairs, is the question of time. I know that time has been of interest to you insofar as, a musical composition, a sort of ordinary musical composition takes a certain amount of time. It has a beginning, a middle, and end. And you said, you told me that you were never interested in that kind of, you were interested in a kind of sound that would continue, that would go on. And just downstairs, you said something great that made me sort of think about how I was seeing the works down there. You said you wanted the exhibition to be about sort of different registers or different sorts of kinds of time. Can you say something a little bit more about that?
I didn't want, suddenly doing it, I think finally this is the first idea I can say about yes, because it came when we did the experiment, which is called waiting for the stones to reappear. It's not a piece by itself, it's just an experiment, maybe the beginning of a work. And then because suddenly I needed to have something which is fixed, not like the thick prints we did long time ago, but wanted to, because there is always a motion in the stock option, you have the presidential teleprompter, and you have the for the TV, you have the frame by frame and the turning carpet. I don't know, mandala virus. Mandala virus.
Yeah.
I call it.
Yeah.
So I said turning carpet.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was very important to have something which is fixed, and because even the seal prints are fixed, but there is different. No, so there is motion in
there's a sort of temporality
and
in
decomposition of motion or deconstruction. I don't know. It's the first idea I can say. It's about to say something, you know.
But you mentioned this other piece that isn't in the show. Can you say something about that? I mean, it's interesting.
Where did I say that?
You still need it downstairs, right? This isn't secret, is it? Maybe it is.
No. Yes, we tried some experiment, and then it was not possible to put in the space. It's too dangerous for the health of the building.
What was dangerous about it?
But the idea was to have it's not an idea. I want to continue this project. The title of the piece was Fossil. How do you say fossil?
Fossil.
Fossil.
Yeah.
And it's very facile. So we just cover a green plant, which is like an apartment plant, so what you can put in your living room, with the asphalt, which is a fossil liquid. I don't know what it is exactly.
Petroleum byproduct, right? So it's fossilized
and
stuff.
you don't know if it's fossilized by the fossil energy. I don't know. So.
But it has a reference to a kind of really sort of deep time, like a time that's, in the same,
So the thing was, I had this show in Paris last month. The opening was the 8th of September, and I decided to go to the gallery. It's like a 2-floor staircase going very straight. And then I put 6 stones of river stones, like big river stones, into the steps, and just let people passing small, just for 1 foot each step. And then people helped me to bring the stones, but I had to take them, and I carry like kids, I mean being.
Yeah.
And it's really, I did that because I had so much to do in September, but and sometimes it was midnight, and I was trying to put them without anything to fix them, but make them auto-locked. And I had this, it's like they really alive. They talk to me, I mean, it's like, and I thought about, primitive human moving stones. It was, because it's very scary. You put one, and it needs to be really stable, that people will not climb on them, but they will. It's very dangerous if it fall down. It's like big stones. And this experience was very, very physical and very spiritual. So it was maybe related to that. I mean, things we think which are not alive, we don't know. It's just a scale of time. Maybe a stone is talking to you, but it takes thousands of years to make just one syllable.
Yeah. Stones move too. They just move really slowly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is part of what, and all
like plants.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated by the motion. I think also the motion catch the attention. Yeah. If you give motion, people are fixed. If you give them moving image, they can, and then the time for sounds to come, it's longer than for the immediacy of the image. And I discovered that long time ago, maybe almost 30 years ago or 25 years ago, when I was 25 years old, and I use it as a trap first. But now I'm thinking, this is not you to listen the music as a, or the audience is not listening the music, but the music is listening the audience. You understand that it means that you forget that there is music to listen, and suddenly the music reveals that you are listening or you are hearing something. And this is the direction I want to go. Also, pure motion makes me, because there is no difference between moving stone in the stairs for me like composing. Exactly the same. Maybe there is a difference for some people. People say this is no music, but I don't see any. It's the same kind of concentration. How can it be stay together?
I'm wondering, Céleste, how you feel about the concept of music as a metaphor.
Oh, thank you for the question. Metaphor.
Yeah, I mean, as opposed to music.
I mean, metaphor means a minimum of emphasis. You understand? The metaphor is like something like to represent.
When we say that something is a kind of music or is like music, aren't we in some way are appealing to that idea metaphorically? I find in your work a very, very concrete link between the score. Oh no, the opposite. It's extremely concrete link, but more than a parchment score. The actual materials themselves, essentially through their process, notate the trajectory of the music, and it really is very, very concrete.
I mean, a score can be, I mean, it's a program. A score, a program, same thing. Even if you go to the circus, the program for the guy who is going trapeze, how do you say that?
Trapeze, yeah.
Yes, it's not to fall, to do the figure right, and this is a very understandable score. Many times people doesn't understand what is the score for the music, and this I know since a long time that you can go to listen to contemporary music, but most of the people in the audience are specialists or do not understand about what is about. And I thought that showing the different element of the system which generate the sound can be very helpful for people. Okay, an object is an object, can be used as it has been made for, but you can also use it differently. Then it escapes to its functionality, and which is a kind of nice way to. For people, it becomes poetic. I don't know when something escapes from its functionality.
And metaphor too, right? Sort of etymologically, and this is true in lots of languages, right? It's certainly true in Greek, right? In the Greek and in German, right? It means to carry over, right? To carry from here, to take from one place and to carry over into another. And so much of your work is about that, right? It's about taking a situation here and rendering it in a different form, right? Taking it, somewhere else. So it's, in that sense, metaphor seems to be throughout this.
I'm really wrestling with that because what I find interesting in confronting Céleste's works as process score, if you want, scores, is that it actually throws a lot of the historical canon of composition into disarray, because in a sense, walking into a new work at the Ensemble Contemporain, and being told this now is new music, that itself is the use of a metaphor. And because of all the specialization and professionalism around the presentation of the same collection of objects with essentially the same collection of actions inside of a frame of the same general set of possible executions, you know, has to be re-enlivened by the appeal to the essential metaphor, which is this now is music.
Yeah.
But when I approach a piece by Céleste, the materials themselves, in a sense, that idea that the music is listening to me as opposed to me listening to music is what allows me to escape the trap of that metaphor.
Yes, for example, yes. But I thought about metaphor in text, I mean a kind of image, yeah, translation to an image. But yes, with Zombie Drones, the TV channel piece, I choose the coach. I mean, it's not, but this coach you cannot see in the museum, in the galleries. It's the reason why I choose them. I want them to, and also they kind of very, they look like, how do you say, called the box where you put dead people. It's like a little bit like a circle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But what's the name of the?
Coffin.
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 Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah.
A lovely word.
And this, also, when you choose an object, it makes sense. The piano with a presidential prompter is not, so deliver meanings. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. But it's quite new. Before I did only the technical things.
Yeah.
Yes, it's finished now.
Well, I just wondered maybe we should just open it up to Q&A and then allow people to, you know, I do want people to go back to the gallery to see the work again after having heard this conversation. So
I certainly would like to.
Absolutely.
orchestrate
So you give a lot.
question. And
Thank
should
you.
I
I'm very honored.
Why do you come so late?
Not my kid. You can understand.
Yes, sure.
Or would you wouldn't mind?
How was it?
Do we have any
Alive?
to do this or?
It's still alive.
No, I mean,
Oh,
how was it?
Thank you.
It's finished? Is we
oh no,
finished yet?
they're going to ask us questions.
Ah, yes, sure.
Oh, okay, maybe let's go that way. Just,
Yeah.
if you wouldn't mind here.
Hi,
Hello. Richard.
Celeste. Thank you. Thank you all for this really interesting conversation. If you could speak maybe a little bit about how you were here, originally you were going to do the piece with the birds and the guitar strings, and I'm sorry for that very crude description of it, but, and you said earlier, when we were talking earlier tonight, that generally you do a piece, one single piece when you do a work in a museum or gallery primarily. And in this case, you had to shift in midstream after a lot of research, a lot of coming here and talking with various people at the university, and to do this new installation, which is a number of different pieces, which you mentioned earlier was very different from you, for your typical installation. As well, you ended up having to act kind of as the role of curator, which you also said you normally don't do. So I'm wondering, just in the context of this particular situation, and the different way that you've had to work with the museum, has that changed the way that you look, that the way you might think about working in the future, or the way that you look at your individual pieces?
I was curious about that. I asked Anthony Allen from the Paula Cooper Gallery to come and help me. We exchanged, and also I was really, comment dire, I was expecting from Loretta to do the things, and but it's always a question of time. I came 10 days ago. The first day we moved the thing in the space. Physically, You can make a plan on different, Google SketchUp or whatever, to prepare the thing, but finally I can say that I had a good, I knew that I wanted the coach there, and it do not change, but we had to find the way to put the work together. It's very interesting, so it's like composing, everything is like composing, in fact. This challenge, yes, because but I had a very good people to work with me, and time. And I think I want to thank them again, but this is the essential to make them think. It's like you need time, you need to have people to help you, you need to and then we took time to move the things. We can move something and decide to change totally, and we have to change this and that. I think it's the way to work. But then I had to tune the piece one to the other. I know the piano is equal temperament and it's fixed, and then I have to tune the other. So I did. It makes me. I like to have to adjust one to be very independent and sometimes compatible. So I did the glissandi piece, the glissandi from the mandala virus turning. It's just the way to, if you have this glissando, it's always well tuned, because the time to get the right sound by cultural in our music we are waiting for is coming. It's just a question of speed of the phase, things like that. So, but I do it. I can explain after doing it. I have no theory. I don't want to see how I can do. Maybe now I will know that this is the meaning to do easy. I mean to make something because I don't want to have some chaotic. I mean it's chaotic by itself, but it don't need to be more. So I had to tune the piano not to make too much, to make it play too much, for example. I can decide this. It's very easy to add or to subtract sounds.
Other questions?
Do I answer to your question?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Other questions?
Can I hand the mic to anybody else? Or yes, Ariel.
I'm just curious, since this is a new process for you, using these programs, if you've thought about the transparency and how the transparency changes for the viewer. Some of your previous works, the functionality, the materialities, you can see it, it's right in front of you. You understand how the sound happens, but the materiality of this is very different. The transparency to the viewership is very different. I'm just curious if you've thought about that in this installation and how you are thinking on it.
Do you mean with regard to a particular piece or with regard to the...
Actually, all of them. I mean, I hear the sound, I see the images, but it's not the same one-to-one experience all the time.
I don't, sorry, I do not understand exactly the question.
So I think the question is partly about, goes back to something we talked about a little bit before, right? The idea of how transparent do you want the causal relationship between this sound and this image, or this image and the sound? How much do you want to let the audience in on those relationships, right? And I think that the thought was that the exhibition downstairs is less transparent. The relationship between what's making what happen is not entirely clear, or the case, yeah?
Yes, it needs to be not entirely clear. It's not because 100% of the image will change at 100% of the sound. If you are in the street, suddenly, or just close to a door, look at the street, if a big track passes, this will change all the 100% of what you saw before. But then, it's not because the track is passing that you have to change 100%. It's just a question also. It needs to be mysterious and intriguing. I think I've tried to make people surprised and intrigued by the work and also surprised. Then I know that in the culture of the museum and contemporary art, people can read the explanation. But for the first piece I did, like the untitled pool, now I changed the name recently, Kleinemann. Do you know what it is? Kleinemann?
Kleinemann, yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
He says he's not theoretical and he's using terms from Roman philosophy here. Yeah. It's a Stoic term. The term means for a swerve, right?
Yeah.
The Stoics, the idea was that everything is atoms and void, and the only thing that generates anything in the world is one of the atoms swerve, and the term is Kleinemann. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. And this is very physical because people can see just balls floating and bumping. And I mean, this was a score for me. It was the same. I did. It was an instrument, but I don't want to be a new luthier. How do you call that? Luthier, nouvelle lutherie. So people who are making new instruments, but it's. Yes, it's like an instrument. It's like a score. It's like exhausting the possibilities of the material. This was very direct, but finally I was kind of victim of that because it's so successful that, people want you to make a new work like so simple and so powerful. And I think sometimes it's nice to hide a little bit something and not to be too clear, to keep the mystery. Do you understand? Yeah.
Other questions?
Okay, well, maybe one more question. Thank you.
Hi. A lot of your work seems to focus on encouraging the listener or the participant to experience themselves or other stimuli in unique ways. And I'm fascinated by that concept of just observing things in unique ways and like what we can gain from that. And I find that often a lot of day-to-day issues are solved by using some sort of solution that has to do with perspective. And I was wondering if because a lot of your music seems to be and it's at least to me, it's just expression of beauty of a different sort. But I was wondering if you have any sort of goal, as in trying to maybe just show people the importance of observing their world in a unique way. Because your music does that for me. And I was wondering if that was something you're going for, or if it's just something unique that I'm taking out of it.
When I did the piece Video Drones, I started in 99, around 2000. It's very funny. It's like a surveillance video system display around the art center, and it's video projection with and the sound is coming. And I thought, in the surveillance, industry, they can really have just a tune. If something is moving, people don't have to look at to the screen to see the video surveillance. When the sound is so. You can really feel without paying attention that the sound is changing. things like that. I like to, when I'm thinking to answer to the other question, to the show, I'm myself like a visitor, one visitor, not a group of visitors. And I think what I'm going to see first, sometimes you can hear something which the sound before you see it. I'm really working on all the process from this angle. What can you see? What is the relationship? So I try to really to make all the possibilities and to take the place of the visitor, because maybe before I start, I was 35 years old, or almost 30, 35, when I used to see many shows where there is no place for the visitor as a person, somebody to come and to visit. For me, it's a question of intersubjectivity between between the work, and which is represent my thought, and the somebody. And it's much closer to the literature. I don't think that a group can visit, because the interaction into the group are more sometimes powerful than the work. And I like, it's not about pop. Pop music means to have a big audience, or dance theater. I like to save really the part of the individual in the confrontation with the work. I think it's very important for contemporary art now become bigger and bigger, and then they want to have a big events and a lot of people coming, and it doesn't. It's a very idea.
So on that note, you'll all have to come back on your own and have the space to yourself. I'm using the same adjective all the time. It's mesmerizing just to be in the space by yourself and to really absorb, and you'll have a good understanding of what Celeste is after. I don't want to mention we have photocopies before we produce the catalog. We do have a photocopy available of this interview between Celeste and Christoph available downstairs, and also a catalog that kind of is a compendium of most of Celeste's work to date, and really describes the process. So that's available for sale downstairs. So yeah, another half hour downstairs. Well, actually 20 minutes. So thank you again. Thanks to you.
Thank you.